G'day! Today for December I'm going to be taking a look at some of my vintage hardware. You may recall that in the recent past, although not so recent for this, I'd looked at something like this, the Book 8088, and its sibling the Pocket 386. Now, when I was showing both of those computers, people would often comment that you could get a vintage laptop cheaper and it would probably do a better job. So today we're actually going to look at a vintage laptop here. I have the IBM 380ED. This is a big lumpy beast, as you can see. And it is actually quite good for DOS gaming, even though it runs Windows 95. Let's take a quick look at this beast. Let's start with the specs of this machine. It's got an Intel Pentium MMX 166MHz processor. It came with 16MB of RAM, a Crystal CS4236 audio chip, and a Neomagic 128V graphics chip. There were a few different options you could get for both storage and display. In this particular machine we have a 2.1GB hard drive and an FRSTN display. My machine has additionally received the upgrade to the RAM up to the maximum of 80MB. Back in the day my particular unit would have been a mid-range spec. There were certainly much faster machines and better machines available at the time. One factor that had a massive impact on the price was the type of screen on a machine. So if you look at this advertisement, you can see that there are two different models of 380ED, and the FRSTN machine is actually more than $1,000 cheaper than the one with a TFT display. In Australia, this difference would have been quite large, being well over 1,500 Australian dollars. Although the price would quickly go down, here we see another advertisement about 6 months later and you can see just how severely the price dropped. Of course, how much this machine cost back in the day doesn't tell you much about how useful this machine is today. If you're looking to play DOS games with this laptop, you'll find that you'll be able to play anything that doesn't require a slow CPU. Anything like Doom and Duke Nukem 3D will work quite well. I'm not sure about more advanced games like Tomb Raider, which have software rendering but require a fast processor. I would have to try one of those out. But things that require a 3DFX card, for instance, are completely out of the question. The memory that I have installed in this machine is more than enough for pretty much anything you'd be able to play. I think the graphics card might be another issue of contention that could cause problems. The Neomagic 128V does not come with very much video RAM, only a little bit more than a megabyte, which is really quite small. This obviously puts a bit of a cap on what kind of resolution you can expect to be output from this graphics card. Of course, the internal display is also very limiting. It can only display up to 800 by 600 pixels, and with an FRSTN display, this one does not update particularly quickly. Results will vary greatly depending on the game, as we will see later. I guess now is as good a time as any to look at some games running on this machine. First we'll take a look at them running with the built-in screen. The first one here is Hocus Pocus, and I think it actually runs fairly well. The screen does blur things a bit, but it is still reasonably playable. It would definitely be better played on a better screen though. Here we have Doom running. It runs really quite well in terms of performance, but I think the built-in screen is just not quite good enough to really make it playable. I've just got the demo running here because I found playing it myself a bit too much. Seek and Destroy here is a little bit more playable than Doom was, but it still suffers greatly from the blurriness of the screen. Otherwise it performs quite well. Although you do need to run this one from MS-DOS rather than from within Windows 98 or 95. Commander Keen here is quite playable, but once again the visuals aren't very good with this LCD screen. I like to test out Bob's Fury on this machine because of the odd graphics card. The Neomagic 128V is actually a little bit different compared to other cards from the era. And this is something you can see if you know anything about Visa programming. It basically has a very different memory layout than most other cards at the time would have had, so it's actually a good thing to test against. The game itself plays quite well, and of course it doesn't suffer as much from the FRSTN screen. Zargon works quite well, and I think it looks a bit better on the screen because it's not as focused on fast-paced action as some other games are. Much like Doom, Duke Nukem 3D has great performance on this machine, but it does expose its flaws, because obviously, just like Doom, the screen is a pretty big downside when playing this. And I think that this really also exposes the bad side of the Crystal sound card as well. The FM synthesis doesn't sound as nice as I thought it should. F117A Nighthawk plays pretty much perfectly. The only thing you have to keep an eye out for is you do need to run this one in MS-DOS mode rather than from within Windows. Otherwise it crashes. But otherwise, the graphics and the screen look pretty good. Silent Service 2, much like F117A, also plays quite well on this machine, and it doesn't suffer too much from the bad screen. Jazz Jackrabbit really exemplifies how bad this screen is for any kind of action game. The blurring here is extreme, and it's really difficult to play. I even tried setting the game to slow mode, and that was still difficult to see. This is all obviously just down to the screen. And lastly, this is MechWarrior 2. This is the Pentium edition that actually runs under Windows. And despite the screen, it really does play quite well, although it is a little bit blurry at times. When I was lucky enough to have this machine donated to me, I happened to also get the docking station with it. The docking station is super useful because it gives you a lot of extra ports, including a game port. So you can connect either a Gravis gamepad like I have, or a joystick, and I found that really useful for a game like F117A Nighthawk. It also allows you to connect your own keyboard and mouse, and of course, the main benefit, an external screen. The next section shows a number of games running with the external screen and how much better they look. I think it makes the biggest difference for Jazz Jackrabbit. So I really like the IBM Thinkpad 380 ED. It is a brilliant machine for playing the most modern of DOS games like Doom, Duke Nukem 3D. I'd say MechWarrior 2 if you have the DOS version of that, and probably Command and Conquer as well, because this has a CD drive. You can play things that require that for FMV. That being said, you can also play some early Windows 95 games on it as well. The version of MechWarrior 2 that I have is actually the Windows 95 version, for instance. I do think it would struggle with bigger games or things that require more hard drive space. As I mentioned before, this thing only has 2 gigabytes of storage, and I wasn't able to upgrade it at all, so that's really quite a drawback if you're trying to play some Windows 95 games. Another drawback is obviously it's not very portable. It's big and it's lumpy, and the battery is no good anymore, basically because it's a 30-year-old laptop. So you can't really use it like, say, the Book 8088 here, which you can take on a trip. This is really best used as a desktop replacement. I've got the docking station, and when I hook it up to an external screen, that mitigates all the issues I have with the internal screen, which has terrible trails, so you can't really play action games on the built-in screen. But with the external screen, you can play pretty much anything, and it'll be awesome sauce. One thing I did note about this machine is the sound in this is surprisingly really good. I don't know what kind of speaker it's got in there, but it's one of the better sounding speakers in a laptop I've ever heard. It also has a handy dandy volume knob on the side here. So I think that's pretty dang nifty. Anyhow, that's pretty much all I have to say about this IBM ThinkPad. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
Hey, when is it my turn?
Not yet. Just let me finish this level.